committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
And a very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Lord with the Wednesday, August 3rd edition of the CBC Evening News. And our top story, hundreds of Barbadians have returned home for the Diaspora Conference, which got underway at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre this morning. And our Kent Jerson is live at the LESC. Good evening, Kent.
Good evening, Lisa. Well, as you said, hundreds of Barbadians living overseas and locals came here at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre for the opening of the much-anticipated Barbados Network consultation. Now, I said much anticipated because this conference and its outcomes are being billed as part of this country's strategic development. Now, it was on that note that Prime Minister Frandell Stewart started this morning, telling members of the diaspora they're very important to this country's development.
The position was put by Prime Minister Frandell Stewart in the feature address to delegates at the 4th Biennial Diaspora Consultation at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre. Prime Minister Stewart says the Barbadian diaspora remains a significant part of government's plans for developing the island. And he says members of the group continue to contribute in a number of ways.
The diaspora community remains a critical component of the government's developmental thrust for Barbados. We remain fully aware of the many ways in which you continue to contribute to the society and economy of Barbados, whether it is by building homes, by starting businesses, by investing in bonds, by remitting foreign exchange to your relatives.
The consultation is widely considered the premier conference for Barbadians, Barbadian descendants, and friends of Barbados abroad and at home. Dubbed by Prime Minister Stewart as the David Thompson Initiative, he said the conference has been a success over the last 6 years. The Prime Minister challenged this year's participants to determine what kind of country they want to build going forward.
As you participate in this 4th biennial consultation in the midst of the 50th anniversary of independence celebrations, I urge that you take time for deep reflection. Whatever our political, religious, or philosophical persuasions, we need collectively to determine what kind of country we want to build beyond the celebration of our Golden Jubilee.
Mr. Stewart called on members of the diaspora to reflect on the values that define Barbados. He said they remain ambassadors for the island and encouraged them to represent the island well. Now, after the official opening, Prime Minister Stewart led the dignitaries on a tour of the marketplace, which features work from about 30 exhibitors. Lisa Broom, CBC News.
Well, as you just heard from Lisa Broom, Lisa, there's also happening here a Barbadian marketplace, which is a showcase of local products. Now, the exhibitors here have high expectations for generating sales, but because of the nature of this particular conference, they're also after a lot more. From craft to healthcare and financial services, all these and more are being showcased at the Barbadian marketplace. As expected, these exhibitors are hoping to generate significant sales or uptake of their services. That's something the expo has actually developed a reputation for delivering.
We were told by some people who had exhibited before in 2014 that there was a lot of uptake from people who came in from the diaspora who were very interested in Barbadian products.
Yet it's not just sales that many of these exhibitors are interested in at this marketplace. With thousands of Barbadians from the diaspora here for the Barbados Network consultation, some of these businesses are looking for investors or partners to help them grow, or just exposure to the many Barbadians living overseas.
To be able not only to sell our items in Barbados, but to have a company that actually grows worldwide.
I'm looking forward to expand the business. I'm presently doing it on a small scale, but I came here today looking forward to meet the people who are looking to link with me.
And the networking is already opening doors that are potentially profitable.
I was introduced to the person, and while talking to them, I just had the inclination to ask them a question, and the person did tell me, well, I can put you in touch with this person and the next person so that you can do what you're thinking of doing. And that is great as far as I'm concerned.
We have a lot of physicians on the outside who have a wealth of knowledge that they would love to be able to tap into the industry and to be able to give their expertise and to share the knowledge with the local practitioners here on the island. And so we're hoping that the connection here today, we actually did meet two persons who are willing to engage us in some conversations to have some sessions sometime next year.
The Barbadian marketplace runs for all 3 days of the consultation, opening from as early as 9 in the morning and closing at 5 p.m. And Lisa, there was another interesting story coming out of the opening. We are hearing that Barbados could actually benefit from Britain's decision to leave the European Union. The suggestion comes from Charles Critchlow. Now, Mr. Critchlow was speaking on behalf of diaspora, and he said, despite the impact of Brexit, Barbadians who live overseas remain committed to this country.
Perhaps one of the unintended consequences, if there is a silver lining, and I'm a positive person to be found, is that many second, third generation people from the Caribbean are now paying much closer attention to the question of identity, the duality of citizenship. Where do we belong? Who are we? And I would say that the commitment to this network consultation offers a very clear answer to those questions.
Now, Mr. Critchlow went on to say that members of the diaspora appreciate the hosting of this conference. He says it makes them feel included and appreciated. And Lisa, as you know, the conference continues for the next 2 days. It wraps up on Friday.
And thank you very much, Kent Jerson there at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Center. Well, in other news, staff of the National Housing Corporation returned to work after staging a brief protest this morning over a number of grievances. Word of this from the NUPW Assistant General Secretary Wayne Waldron. CBC understands the protest started around 9 this morning and included a number of departments. There's also been a show of support for the Human Resources Officer Paula Blackman, whom workers claim is being unfaired. She was acting off and on as Human Resource Manager at the corporation since 2009 until October of last year, and permanently since then until the end of last month. After inquiring about an appointment to the post, she was told that it couldn't be done due to financial constraints and the impending merger of the Rural and Urban Development Commissions with the NHC. However, effective today, another person was employed by the NHC to permanently work in that position. Mr. Waldron, who was at the scene, says the issue is among a number of problems plaguing NHC employees, which proved to be the breaking point.
Why a decision was taken, and we suspect that there is some act of nepotism in this regard. And this interview, we believe, was used as a smoke screen to justify the action of appointing a person, because no one cannot justify that. Sister Paula Blackman, for her competency, so to be qualifying, only dropped over the years, that there's a process of measurement that could be implemented that suggests she failed the process.
Well, in response, Housing Minister Dennis Kalman says all the correct procedures were followed in appointing the new individual to that post. He says Ms. Blackman was well compensated for acting in the position. However, Mr. Kalman notes that the young lady now given the job was appointed after the procedures prescribed under the Employment Rights Act were put in place.
It was advertised, the interviews were done, and the person who came first was selected. It was not a situation where someone was chosen and the persons within the organizations were not given opportunities. Everybody would have been given the opportunity. If you wanted the job, you could have applied and you would have been interviewed.
Minister Kalman says the NHC has been following the recent ruling of the Employment Rights Tribunal and is getting its house in order. Well, one man is now in police custody after a hit-and-run incident this afternoon in 6 Road, St. Philip. According to police, the man lost control and drove into a vendor's tent under which 3 men and 1 woman were selling fruits and vegetables. Immediately after, he drove off, leaving the 3 men nursing cuts and bruises while the woman suffered a dislocated arm. He was subsequently apprehended, and police are continuing investigations into that accident. Well, a day after the passing of former band leader Renee Ratcliffe, friends and family gathered at the National Stadium yesterday evening for a candlelight vigil. That vigil celebrated Miss Ratcliffe's life as a band leader, designer and friend. She died on Monday morning at the hospital after collapsing on her way from the National Stadium. Her friend Shem Sobers came up with the idea for the vigil. He says she was a very special person.
Just hear her speaking with the loudest voice you could ever imagine, and just partying, enjoying herself, and hope somebody will come up and design costumes in her name.
And as the Crop Over Festival comes to an end, Barbadians are being asked to take some time to reflect on the past. It is coming from Chairman of the Task Force for Reparations, Professor Pedro Welch. Professor Welch was speaking during the Emancipation Day ceremony at the National Stadium, which preceded the annual parade of the bands. He reminded Barbadians of the injustices our forefathers endured and declared that they would not happen again. Professor Welch also disclosed that the task force would soon submit a document on reparations to the government.
We have come to the position where we are about ready to deliver to our House of Assembly, not too long from now, a particular document which will speak about reparations. The theme of our effort is, they stole us, they took away from us, and now they have to repay us.
A St. George farmer counting his losses after stray dogs slaughter his sheep. That story and more news ahead on the Evening News. Stay with us.
Don't let your data experience slow you down. Step up to Digicel, Barbados' fastest 4G network, more than twice as fast as the slow network. Get more with Digicel. Digicel, the fastest 4G network in Barbados. Dial *153# to sign up to Digicel today.
It's not about exercising. It's having the strength to do what you're passionate about. It's not about the road traveled. It's about the one to be traveled. An important thing in life is finding the perfect balance between body and soul. With a bottle of Ensure, you get the proteins, calcium, and 26 vitamins and minerals your body needs to live the best moments of your life with strength and energy. Your life, your health, your Ensure.
A lot of people think that fast boys are cool, and the girls show like the guys who right there. But like so many things about life, you gotta be careful. Having sex without a condom is like riding a bike without a helmet. It's just plain dumb. It's okay to have fun as long as you're smart about it. My name is Daniel the Lion Fortress, and I'm different, and I'm making a difference.
Live up, love, protect, respect.
Hey guys, we've had a wonderful time for Festival Stage 2016. We'd like to thank Kurt Brown for being a part of our presentation this year. Coming up on Friday, August 5th, our final edition of the stage from 1 until 3. This is, of course, to make way for the official funeral of the late Sir Frederick Smith. And on our final presentation, we'll have the winners of every aspect of Crop Over. The red plastic bag will be coming along. We'll also have a special mixologist in to do his thing. The Trident dancers will also be here. It's going to be a really big show coming up in our final presentation of Festival Stage. Don't forget, it's Friday, August 5th from 1 until 3. I'm the Admiral. See you there.
The sheep farmers in Barbados are pleading with authorities to enforce stiffer penalties to people who are found to own dogs which attack and kill livestock. And this call comes today after a St. George farmer lost over 30 sheep slaughtered by wild dogs in the past 48 hours. Ron Brathwaite reports.
Owner of Green Thumb Sheep Farm, Wayne Niles, woke up to a horrific scene yesterday at his property in Lower Estate, St. George. There on his property lay 7 dead mature rams. slaughtered at the hands of stray dogs. The distraught farmer, who asked to remain off camera, told CBC News in addition to those dead, another 5 sheep lay injured and might have to be put down given the severity of their injuries. He says he does not understand how the dogs got in, as they would have had to scale a wall that was over 5 feet tall to get to his sheep. This is not the first of such an occurrence, as earlier this week the farm suffered a similar fate when 23 sheep were mauled by stray dogs.
This is not good enough. We need to do something about this here. All farmers need to get together and do something about this animal control situation.
Officials of the farm are calling for dog owners in Barbados to be more responsible with their animals.
People that own dogs, let go dogs at night, please keep your dogs tied or they will not get back home. I'm not taking this lightly at all. This is too much of a loss. All the black belly sheep gone down the drain. No, it was the thieves, now the dogs attacking.
Officials of Green Thumb Farm say the situation is driving persons away from rearing animals. This given the fact that there is no form of compensation for people who lose thousands of dollars where their animals are butchered by these dogs. Ron Brathwaite, CBC News.
Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Agricultural Society, James Paul, is calling for reserve areas to be created to help control the local monkey population. He says the animals have been quite destructive, preventing farmers and Barbadians from engaging in home gardening to help sustain their families.
I'm not asking for the extermination because I love to see these animals like anybody else because they could be pleasant things to watch. But at the same time, we have to see if we can maybe create areas or reserve areas in which they can be inside there. But we developing a reputation in Barbados of indiscipline, right? In other parts of the world, these creatures are kept in certain areas.
Meantime, Mr. Paul also wants more action from the relevant authorities to help curb the population of stray dogs.
I think really the institutions such as the RSPCA, the dog pound, those people need to get out there and be more active in ensuring that persons with domestic animals and they cannot control them, that's certainly something should be done. Okay? You cannot allow people with these animals to just leave them out there and attack people's sheep and goat and pigs and chickens. This is what's happening.
Well, close to $2 million will be spent on restoring technology within schools this year. Education Minister Ronald Jones says all schools will be getting new computers. He also says 10,000 tablets will be distributed to 4th, 5th and 6th form students. He was speaking at the Ministry of Education this morning after a British company called Morphans Education donated 144 toy building kits for the nursery and primary schools. Mr. Jones says the kits will allow them to be innovators. The Education Minister says the public needs to embrace the use of technology within schools.
We cannot destroy technology. We have to encourage ethical use of technology. We have to encourage persons to do research. We have to encourage persons to reach out beyond their own borders and communicate with other peoples, other civilizations, other cultures. And as a result of that, greater racial harmony, greater collaboration can be ensured as a result of people reaching out.
While Barbadians are being asked to look out for the safety of one endangered species of wildlife. The plea came after a number of young turtles were crushed by motorists along the Fitz Village section of Highway 1 in St. James. Director of Public Awareness and Education for the Barbados Sea Turtle Project, Carla Daniel, says many more could have died if not for the efforts of residents in that area.
By the time the team got here, I believe they recovered about 2 or 3 that were still alive, but the majority of the ones they saw when they got here were crushed. Fortunately, the guy then stated later that he had found what he termed to be 2 buckets of hatchlings. We believe that he was there just in the nick of time to ensure that the majority of them didn't reach the road, and he released them.
Now, while admitting that protecting sea turtles is no small task, Ms. Daniel wants Barbadians to be more vigilant and believes more can be done to better facilitate the nesting of eggs.
Simple things like some restaurants and hotels changing the angle of the light so it's not, it's not uplit or it's not shining directly out to sea, reducing the amount of light, because oftentimes a lot of the light isn't for security, it's simply, to shine on a tree or to shine out to the water to make the place look good. Changing some of the bulbs, so lower wattage bulbs, and perhaps instead using those sea turtle friendly lights. Keeping vegetation on the beach.
Well, Barbados has lost a major contributor in the medical sector. He is Professor George Nicholson. This afternoon, scores of people gathered at the chapel of the Coral Ridge Memorial Gardens at a memorial service in remembrance of him. Many tributes were paid in honor of his hard work over the years. Mr. Nicholson worked in a number of medical fields. However, his focus was in the area of nephrology. His son, George Nicholson, says his father loved poetry and music.
He was a lover of words. And if you ever tried to win an argument with him, you know this to be true. He loved the richness of world languages, wrote poetry, read widely and deeply, could quote Shakespeare at the drop of the hat, and managed to use Latin in everyday conversations. Dad loved music. It was an escape for him. We were raised in a household with classical music, jazz, blues, and classical ragtime piano playing. We could always tell what sort of mood he was in by the number of times he practiced playing Scott Joplin's The Entertainer or Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata on the grand piano in our living room.
And still to come, a look at some of the stories making headlines across our region.
Everybody's moving as one because it's celebrating as one. And that's why you